Go ahead and get started here. I thought I would ask Mr. Heath, first off, your career seems to have taken a few steps, some logical progressions along the way. You talk about in your book starting with the alto, and then you were influenced by Charlie Parker and moved to the tenor saxophone, and then at a certain point you felt like you were leaving some of those influences behind and really getting your own voice and becoming your own artist. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about those steps and maybe at what point you knew you were really doing your own work and maybe shedding some of those influences or subsuming them to the point where they were just part of what you were doing.
Well, first of all, I had heard, my father was a clarinetist when he wasn't on the weekends, because he was an auto mechanic for a living for the family. But he played the clarinet and marching band kind of thing. And everybody in my family was offered an instrument of their choice. And by having all the big bands out at that time, I was privy to hear people like Benny Carter and Johnny Heath before Charlie Parker. So when I heard Charlie Parker as the third great alto saxophonist in my living at that time, Charlie Parker was playing at a higher level of improvisation than the others. I can't say that because it's a matter of taste. Johnny Heath was the greatest singing alto saxophonist. Benny Carter was technical, but he was also orchestrator, played trumpet, trombone, and wrote music. So they all had something to offer the world of music. So with Charlie Parker just was different in that I think he absorbed a little more of the Western classical harmony, and he was able to present and play solos that were very high tech at that time. He played very fast, and he knew all of the chords and the harmony that he was dealing with. He and Dizzy were the instrumental people in the modern movement of jazz at that time, which the people call bebop. So I was actually in a band in Omaha, Nebraska in 1945 called Nat Towles, Towles. And this was a dance band. We played all here, we played in Des Moines, we played all these different places. In Iowa and in the Midwest. We played in North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, all Wisconsin. And we went to, on a southern tour, and we went to Savannah or Atlanta, I'm not sure which, but I know it was in Georgia. And there was a saxophonist in the band with me by the name of Billy Mitchell from Detroit. Billy Mitchell ended up playing with the Basie and Dizzy bands. But anyway, Billy Mitchell was my same age, and in the afternoon we were setting up for the gig that evening, and I put a nickel in the jukebox, and we heard this record called Swingnatism by Jay McShann and Hootie Blues on the other side. And I kept putting nickels in. I said, man, listen at this alto. I didn't know who he was at that time. And then in 1945, this was 1945 when I'm talking about. Then later that year, I heard Charlie Parker and Dizzy. And I realized it's the same man was playing bebop. He was doing it with Max Shan. So that's what took my mind, the fact that the way he played on a blues was so modern and so up to date. I wanted to be like that. So when my father asked me about what instrument I wanted, having heard Benny Carter, Johnny Hodges, and then Charlie Parker, I took the alto before. And I was on the alto in this band at that time, but following those three people in the direction musically that they were leading.
So at what point then did you decide to shift to tenor? And what was the impetus for that?
Well, they started calling me Little Bird because I was trying to play everything Charlie Parker played, which I never could, but I tried. And then when I was with Dizzy's band, this is 1949, that was 45 or so, 49 and 48 and 49, and that time I had started copying Charlie Parker. And I was with Dizzy's band in 1949. It was Coltrane and me playing altos. Paul Gonsalves was playing the tenor saxophone, who later went with Basie and Duke Ellington and made a big reputation. But when Dizzy fired me, see, we got in trouble with Dizzy. Me and Coltrane and the drummer, who was from Philadelphia, named Specs Wright. He caught us in the club in Chicago using drugs on the intermission. And he fired me. So when he fired me, and I went back to Philadelphia, the first instrument to be hired after the rhythm section in Philadelphia, in all the clubs, you had a bass, drums, and piano. The next instrument to be hired was the tenor, not the alto, not a trumpet. If you played trumpet or trombone, you wasn't getting no gigs. So I said, well, I think I better get a tenor. Plus, I had gotten the reputation of being a Little Bird, and that wasn't a savory reputation. You know, because I got in trouble singing way that Charlie Parker did. And it's in that book when I went to prison. And I spent 4.5 years in Lewisburg Penitentiary for heroin. Okay? So I became a drug addict. And after that, I came home. I never used it again. I came home in 1959. I went in 55 and came. But back to the saxophone, the tenor. It was economical and career change because of I wanted to get my own sound. However, I'm still playing Charlie Parker on tenor. Because if you didn't play any Charlie Parker, you're not playing jazz. Because he was the foremost improvising saxophonist at that time. And there's still not a lot of people who caught up with Charlie Parker's performance at that level. John and I, you know, well, John changed to tenor too. And he made his reputation on tenor, Coltrane, and soprano. And I play soprano also. But that's the way that happened. So my life goes, it's a lot of reasons why I got into a drug thing anyway. And that's also, I documented the whole thing. It took me over 25 years to write this book. And I couldn't stop when things started to happen. I started meeting President Clinton and knowing people and being very successful in a small way. And I said, well, I can't stop now because all the good stuff is happening now. You know, all the bad stuff is in the beginning of the book. Having gone to a separate and not equal school in Wilmington, North Carolina, was was not good. But there's something good that came from that, because have you ever heard of this? I know you haven't. The white school, the New Hanover High School, went to the 12th grade, as all the white schools did in America. But the black school in North Carolina, I'm in Wilmington, Coltrane is in Hamlet. We're the same age. He's in High Point, North Carolina. We don't know each other, but he's a month older than me, Coltrane. And we both are victims of this discrimination, in that our high schools went to the 11th grade. I graduated with a cap and a gown from the 11th grade. And I could have been a bricklayer or a carpenter. And I studied some carpentry. I could make tables and all that stuff. But when my father sent me that alto saxophone on Christmas, I said, never mind this. And that saxophone, this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. I couldn't have been a jockey. I was scared of horses. I couldn't have been an athlete. I'm too small. So when I got that saxophone, that's it. And I've been on the saxophone since I was 14, and I'm now 85.